Hi everyone, this is Dr. Josh Phillips, and today I'm coming at you with a short video, and my goal is to keep this under 5 minutes. And what I want to talk about is the two things that college students need to succeed in college. And these are two things that I think administrators and faculty should be pushing and advocating for that they're currently not. And I think there are very good reasons, or I think there's reasons that they're not. I don't think they're good reasons. um, but let's go ahead and work through these two things because I think retention and I think graduation rates are important. Currently, graduation rates nationwide are about 55% of students who start college are actually going to end up graduating, and that means that there's a whole lot of people out there who did not finish college, who are stuck with a lot of debt, and because they don't have that college degree, it's hard for them to secure a job that's going to pay well enough in order to manage that debt. All right. So, what do we currently do with regard to retention and graduation rates? All right, there's three big things that we do, right? And this is all based on research. So you can go through the research on your own. This isn't my opinion. This is stuff that sort of that comes through in the academic research literature. All right. So we create a barrage of committees. So we get all these faculty members together and say, how can we, sort of boost our retention rate, our graduation rates? We've been doing this for about 30 years, since the 90s. And the thing is that graduation rates remain flat. They remain around 55%, right? So obviously the committees aren't working, but we keep throwing committees at these problems. The second thing we do is we create a lot of new programs for incoming freshman students, for instance. So we create like the academic success program, the academic mentoring program, first year experience program. Let's create different cohorts, and maybe all these students can kind of work through college together. We create, different sort of like remedial programs. So students who maybe aren't strong at math, we're going to put them all in the same math class together and work it out, right? We create lots and lots of programs across different campuses throughout the country. And what research shows is that the average new academic sort of success program only lasts about 2 years. And the reason is that after about the first year, it's a bunch of like, we're going to have this cohort of freshmen come in, they're going to do their thing, we're going to track them into their sophomore year. And by sophomore year, it's like some of them are falling off. Faculty and staff who are originally on the committee aren't on the committee anymore. Nobody wants to hold it together. So if it's like, if Dr. Phillips has this great idea, he creates the program, but then after about 2 years, I'm like, well, I got this other project I'm going to work on, and there's not that sort of one passionate person behind the program to keep the program going. If you're a faculty member or an administrator out there, you have seen these types of programs come and go. Every year, a new program, like how can we address this, gets put up there, and then it falls away. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. The third thing that we do is we create all these resource centers on campus that sort of catered to already motivated students. So what does this look like? We create resource centers on campus to say, look, we have a resource center for, so we have like diversity resource center, multicultural resource center, Black student resource center, LGBT resource center, Latino resource center. We have veterans resource centers, right? We have all these resource centers for various demographics. Now, I'm in full support of resource centers for students who need to feel who need to feel supported on campus. Maybe they don't feel like they're included on campus in various ways, and so these resource centers give them a sense of community and belonging. The pitfall in thinking that resource centers will solve the problem is that resource centers already cater to motivated students within that demographic. So let's say that we create a Black resource center for students. That the students who are most likely to utilize that resource center are already the A and B students who are doing well in their class. So these are already students who would be willing to seek out resources, whether or not a specific resource center was on campus. So these are students who are already interested in getting tutoring, who are already interested in graduating, who already use the career resource center in order to get internships, et cetera, right? So they're not actually reaching the students who are sort of falling by the wayside with regard to needing the academic help, right? So they're good places for community, for various demographics to feel included on campus, but they don't actually do much to boost the retention and graduation numbers of those particular demographics, all right, in any sort of statistically significant way. Now, Why is it that administrators and faculty like doing these, committees, programs, and resource centers? It's because these things are visible and they're tangible, right? You can point to, we have a new resource center on campus for LGBT students, and parents come in, students come in, and they say, wow, that's great, you're doing all these supportive things. We have this new program, you can put that in PR material, right? You can put that on a website, right? These things are visible, and so people can see them, right? And so it looks as if we are doing something for retention and graduation, because we have these sort of we have these things that are visible that we can point to. But again, the fact of the matter is we've been doing this for about 30 years. Graduation rates stay at about 55%, and there's actually no increase in retention and graduation rates. All right, so this is a problem. All right, we shouldn't keep doing the same thing over and over again, knowing that it fails. However, if you go through the literature, right, what should we actually do? What is actually supported by research? And it's two very simple things that I cannot for the life of me understand why people will not push harder. All right, there are two very simple things that we can all do, but for one reason or another, people don't want to do them. All right, and these are the two things, again, supported by research. Not my opinion, it's in the literature. If you're a student, the two things you can do: show up to class on time and turn in your work on time. Two little caveats: make sure your work is completed. So if they say write a 4-page paper, don't turn in a 2-page paper. And make sure your work is on time, right? Because if you turn in your work late, all of a sudden it's like, not only did I not finish this week's assignment, but now I might not finish next week's assignment because I'm trying to catch up, right? You show up to class on time, you turn in your work on time, the probability that you are going to remain in college and you are going to graduate with a passing grade is going to go through the roof. All right. Now, there's already a lot of people, I can already hear them typing in the comment section that say, well, some people drop out of college for things like financial reasons, health emergencies, family emergencies. This is all valid, right? But do not let these individuals who are the exception to the rule sort of manage the entire rule, right? So these are anecdotal explanations, right? There are people who need to drop out of college for financial reasons, health emergencies, family emergencies, right? But they are a small percentage of of all the people who end up sort of dropping out of college for various reasons. All right. So if we do these two things, we're not going to be able to solve the graduation problem for everybody in college, but we're going to be able to solve the graduation problems for a large percentage of that 45% of individuals who don't complete college. It's going to solve that problem for the majority of them. Okay. So you're a student, show up to class on time, turn in your work on time, you do those two things. So what do faculty and staff? What is our role? All right. This is an argument I've had with lots of people over my 15 plus years in higher ed. As a grad assistant, now as a professor. We need to create a climate on our college campuses that creates a climate that says we are a college, we are a professional setting where you show up to class on time and you turn your work in on time. So we create all of these different committees, right, of what we can do. But again, most of these committees end up capturing the students who are already motivated to do their work. All right, they don't capture the students who aren't that motivated to do their work. So the students who aren't motivated are still going to sort of fall away. Again, the resource centers, the programs, these are students who are like, yeah, I want to do a good job. So these are students who would already be seeking out help on their own anyhow. All right. So what can faculty and staff do? And it needs to be a campus climate situation. We're always talking about campus climate in a lot of different committees. They talk about campus climate on things like, the Chronicle, Inside Higher Ed, all these sort of online blogs and magazines for academic professionals. The campus climate means this: you need to have a campus-wide attendance policy and a campus-wide late work policy. Because what ends up happening is a lot of faculty end up pushing back on these sorts of things because they say things like academic freedom, you can't touch my syllabus. And while that's sort of been the mainstay, the problem with that is the following. Let's say that Dr. Phillips, let's say me, I have a policy in my syllabus that says you have to show up on time and you have to turn in your work on time. Otherwise it's late, or you're going to be tardy, you're going to miss out points, right? So students come to my class, let's say at 9 a.m. and they do those things, right? And then at 10 o'clock, they go to Dr. Smith's class, whoever Dr. Smith might be. And Dr. Smith says, it doesn't do anything if a student shows up 10 minutes late. If a student turns in their work, Dr. Smith's just like, yeah, go ahead, whatever, right? So there's no sort of cohesive professionalism. There's no cohesive policy with regard to how are we setting the standards that students that we know students need in order to get through school successfully, as far as, again, retention and graduation. So setting that sort of campus-wide climate standard would be extremely important and something that I would definitely advocate for on any campus that I would be around. These are conversations I've had with lots of people at different higher ed conferences I go to, as far as what can we do. And again, a lot of people, they keep doing, we need first year experience, we need different cohorts, we need new resource centers. Again, the thing is that we've been doing this for 30 years, and I am not so presumptuous to think that I am more caring or more intelligent than the people who are also trying to do these things 30 years ago. But when you go through the literature, you go through the macro data as far as the students who are successful in college, you go through and you see these results. Students who show up to class on time, students who turn in their work on time, those are the students who are going to remain in college, and those are the students who are going to end up graduating. So I'm a big advocate of get rid of all this stuff. I know it looks cool because you can take someone on a tour and say, here's our new resource center. You can put it in the PR material and show everybody all these programs you're doing to help students. But the truth of the matter is, if a student doesn't show up to class, a tutoring session isn't going to be helpful, right? You can't show up to a tutoring session and say, I need help writing my paper, but you never showed up to your English class in order to understand what the assignment was about in the first place. All right. It makes no difference whether or not you have some sort of resource center on campus, but a student's not turning in their work. All right. Do these two things. If you're a student, do these two things and you will succeed. All right. If you're a faculty member, administrative staff member, and you want to have a successful, if you want to really boost retention and enrollment and graduation rates, create a climate where you push your faculty to say, look, we need a campus-wide policy where everybody's on the same page, where students know they're going to need to be in all of their classes on time, and they need to turn in all their work on time. Otherwise, what happens is students are like, okay, Dr. Phillips is, he's a hard one when it comes to you got to be on time, you got to turn your work on time, and you got Dr. Smith, who's a little bit more lackadaisical, he doesn't really care that much. It becomes this huge disconnect for students, and there's no sort of campus climate atmosphere where students know, when I show up on campus, I'm a college student, I'm going to be treated as an adult, I got to get my work in on time, I got to show up on time, and that's sort of just the mentality of walking on campus. Otherwise, it's sort of students, doing that sort of choose your own adventure, what classes do I want to take and not take? I'm going to take this professor because this professor lets me get away with stuff, this other professor doesn't let me get away with stuff, and that is where we see, again, according to research, not my opinion, according to research, this is where we see this gap between retention and graduation rates, as far as students who are going to graduate and students who don't graduate. And again, the last thing I'll leave you with is I understand, again, the YouTube comment stuff, I understand there is a subset of individuals who drop out of college for reasons like financial reasons, health emergencies, family emergencies, right? These are individuals that we need to be able to address in different ways. But for the vast majority of students who drop out of college, it is because they don't show up and they don't turn in their work, and therefore they fall away and they end up, getting on academic suspension, possibly expulsion because of low GPAs because they're not keeping their grades up. All right. So create this atmosphere on your campus. If you have a campus-wide policy that says this is the attendance policy for campus-wide, and get all your faculty on board. This is the campus policy for turning in late work, and you have that campus climate where students know this is what is expected of them. Now students are going to be better prepared to keep moving on year after year until they hit graduation. And this is a successful model that is shown in the research to work. All right. This will take care of the vast majority of our retention and graduation issues if we just have sort of the fortitude and the willingness to do it. Unfortunately, I think there are too many there's too many faculty members who say, this is my syllabus, I'm going to run my classroom the way I want. And you have too many administrators who say, run the classroom however you want, to faculty who are teaching these courses. And what ends up happening is you just have too many different standards for too many different classes. Students don't come in with a sort of, again, this cohesive message of showing up on time, turning your work in on time, and it definitely, and it does not benefit the students. All right. I want to benefit the students. I want students to graduate. These are the two things that show up in the research that say these will benefit students and help them graduate. So these are the things that I'm going to continue advocating for, as opposed to, again, these barrages of, committees and programs and resource centers that, again, don't last that long and, usually only sort of cater to students who are already motivated to get the work done on their own. All right. Show up to class, turn your work in on time. Let's get those retention and graduation numbers up. Faculty, administrative staff, support a climate on your campus that says our campus is professional and you will show up to class on time, you will turn your work in on time. Get that mentality going in your students from freshman year, and you will see a lot of success in the next 4 years with graduation rates.